Has your dream taken you to the kind of home you want to live in? With your family? Are you worried about the kind of neighborhood to bring your children up? Does the influence of society and environment matter to you and your family? Are you worried about your health, your early morning joggings, sound of the birds? Does accessibility contribute to your daily activities? If yes, Universal Properties has homes, lands on our estates, property management, and construction, just at the right spots for the most reasonable offer. Our land locations are at Sukuta, Jabang, Brikama Jamisa, Kitty Highway, Sanyang, and Gunjur, on both mortgage and cash payment.
Established far back in 2009, and we are into housing, developing, rents, sales. We are here to make housing affordable, accessible for every Gambian.
Universal Properties, property, the solution.
Hello viewers, you're watching the Youth Dialogue and I am your host Jenna Sonko. It's always good to be back, and happily last episode we received very good feedbacks from last episode, and we are thanking you all for the continuous support that you give to the Youth Dialogue program, that is the safe space for young people in the country. So International Day of the Child is in 2 days. So as a program, we feel like it is necessary to also give children a platform to talk about their issues, because we take a look at from 15 to 35 years, and 15 is a child. So we are within that range. So we think it is necessary to also involve children in relation to some of the issues that affects them, because this particular day is set aside by the United Nations to draw attention to issues affecting children around the world. So today with me, I have Voice of the Young members, Sukai John and Mansata Bajo. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate that you guys are here. I always have this strong respect for Voice of the Young, because I always say this: most of the Voice of the Young members, previous Voice of the Young members, are doing extremely well in society. If you don't believe me, go and check the records. This is something established, and whenever I have a conversation with young people that are from Voice of the Young, I'm extremely happy, because I know that they will deliver as expected. So thank you so much, Mansata and Sukai, for coming. So Sukai, let's start with you. Today we are going to center this particular conversation on how COVID-19 has affected children, because we are in a global pandemic and about to celebrate International Day of the Child. In as much as in Gambia we feel like COVID-19 is going away, but I had an interview with the minister not long ago, and he told me that Gambia is not better than countries that are currently experiencing a second wave. So let us not relax to an extent. We are still battling with a global pandemic. But before we get into how the pandemic has affected children, let's take a look at what this particular day means to you as a child. I'm aware that you guys are 17 and almost 18 next year, which means you guys have lived for 17 years as children, so you have a lot to share with me today. So what does this day mean to you, International Day of the Child?
Well, this day is very important to us, because we are being recognized as children, and I'm very grateful that the world has seen that we have an important part to play in this world, to give us this opportunity to be able to celebrate ourselves, celebrate our lives as children, because we are the future leaders of tomorrow, and what people put into us is what we're going to put into our own generation next time.
Okay. So that is what it means to you. Yep. So Mansata, what does this day mean to you, International Day of the Child?
Well, as he said, we are very grateful that the world has recognized the importance of children in the world. So then, like, this day is showing us that we, like, people they value us, they respect us, and they want our voices to be heard. So for that being the case, we are very happy that there is a particular day that is set for us to celebrate our rights.
Yeah, so you talked about the fact that a specific day is set aside to celebrate the lives of children, but that is just one day. That is just one day in the entire year. But apart from that day, we realize that children get to face a lot of challenges.
Yeah.
So in this particular day, what are you calling for? What are you calling for children?
So what we want is like we have representatives, because not every child will be present on a particular place to celebrate the day. So we will have representatives from so many places, and then we'll talk about the issues that affects us, and then people will hear about it, and then we'll discuss on how to move on, how to have a better life as children.
Okay, so do you have something to add on that? What are you calling for on the day of the child?
Well, I call on people, especially our parents, to recognize us, to give us our rights, for people to know children's rights and also to respect it. That's the only thing I ask for.
Okay. So what are these rights? Today, I want you guys to educate us. You know, Lamin Kinsey is always here to say, rights, CV, la li la li. So, namabuga handa yentamet, hamgen fallen waratahaw as young people, as children. So, what are these rights? You also hold rights, yo banga fokna lengina waramuna fonka.
Well, I think the right for people to give us the opportunity to express ourselves is very important, because we might be going through stuff, and when we're not given the opportunity to express ourselves, people will not know what's happening with the lives of the children, and that's very important.
Okay, what about you?
So we for me it's education, because like it's very powerful. It's like what is going to show us how to be in the future. But then one thing that I learned from Voice of the Young is, as a child, is that every right goes with a corresponding responsibility.
Brilliant.
So if you're part of the children who are granted the opportunity to be educated, it is your responsibility to do everything that you can in order to be educated, in order to make your parents proud, and to make other children out there to be proud of you.
Okay, so which means every right goes
with
equal
a corresponding
responsibility. And when we say child's right, it doesn't mean that, you know, the child has to be rude, right?
No.
Okay.
You should not be rude. Like, basically, that's what people think outside. That's why so many people they don't even care about us when we talk about our rights. So, like, in Voice of the Young, that is what we are taught. When you are speaking about your right, it doesn't mean that you have to be rude. It doesn't mean that you should do whatever that you want. It's like you need to express yourself as a child with the aid of an elderly person, because they are experienced, so they can guide you through. But like you need to shape your own life.
You need to shape your own life.
Yeah.
Wow, that's quite powerful. You need to shape your own life. So now there are a lot of things that the government, when it comes to children, has put in place in relation to your own protection. When it comes to laws for FGM, child labor, and all of that. So as children, you are children that are so brilliant, and you're out there. Like you said, it's not all children that are up there to be able to represent all children. It's just few of you that serve as a voice for them. Yeah. So now, when it comes to these things that the government has put in place, FGM, child labor, and all, do you think the enforcement of these laws are done? And if not, how do you think this can be done as children? Because you talked about the fact that you want to be given the right to express yourself.
Yeah.
So now express yourself in relation to this.
Well, I think that the laws are there, but the implementation is kind of not very much, because the government is doing their part. The police also is doing their part. But now the problem lies in the society, because there are a lot of cases that we see children are being prevented from speaking up, because when they speak up, especially when like rape cases, normally it happens between family members. So when this happens, like the children are being quiet, their parents say, don't say this, because if you say it might spoil the relationship between the family members. So like the society as in general just hinder that implementation.
Okay, so you think this has to do with society, attitudinal change,
Yes.
not government, not police?
Yeah, because they are
not
doing their
enforcement.
best.
Okay.
The police have already established a child welfare unit.
Okay.
They've also put in place the children's court, and also there's the Children's National Assembly. So I think the government have done a really good job. Now the thing left for us is to be able to stand up and speak up for ourselves.
Okay.
That's why I said that the most important right to me is to be able to express yourself as a child. Because when you start expressing yourself, that's when the that's when our problems start to get solved. Because, for instance, when something is happening to you, no one can know unless you speak up. And if you speak up, the government is there. They have put in place all these mechanisms which can help you. So I believe that the right to be able to express your views is very important.
Okay, so this has to do with parents out there changing in relation to... It's so sad that you're here talking about the fact that when rape cases happen, they try to put it under the carpet. And it's quite sad, and you guys are beginning to realize that
Yeah.
it's happening and it needs to stop. I can remember my last episode, this is something that we talked about, the fact that when rape happens, you just put it under the carpet and you just say, dañoo rus suñ family bi. So I think Nelly is becoming such a norm, and it needs to be changed. So what's your take, Mansara, in relation to some of these things, some of these laws put in place?
Okay, like as you said, we need to break the culture of silence as children. We need to speak up. If like you have been raped, but then your family members do not care about it, there are places like CPA. You can always go there. You can always tell them your problem. So if your family do not care about like you being raped or those kind of things, then you can go out there and then express yourself. But then about the law enforcement too, like the government have they have established the Children's Parliament, they have established like the Ministry of Children, but I think still now the like for FGM and child marriage, they are still happening. We are seeing them, they are still happening. So I think like you know, if someone is murdered, like if someone is killed, it's a law in the Gambia, but so, people will be afraid to kill someone because they know that once you kill someone and you are caught, this is going to happen to you no matter what.
Penalty.
But it's not something that is applied to FGM and child marriage and all those stuff. So I think the government will work more on that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so are you telling the government that they should treat FGM and child marriage penalties like they treat that penalty for murder?
Exactly. Let them be equal.
Let them be equal.
Not
Wow. Okay. Okay. Then the government has a huge task ahead of them in relation to making sure that the law is enforced. So now let's talk about COVID-19. Like I mentioned, International Day of the Child this year has come when we are battling a global pandemic, you know, and we all know how this particular global pandemic has affected children. But let's hear it from the horse's mouth. How has the coronavirus pandemic affected your well-being as a child?
Well, let me start from the emotional aspect. I was in grade 12. Having to like we were in mock exams when like the government announced that the first COVID-19 case is like the COVID-19 is in the Gambia. I was so paranoid because we were in mock exams and then we have about like 2 weeks to start our external exams. So it affected me a lot. I was studying so hard and then I just had to stop at some point, not knowing when we are going to do our exams. And socially also, I've not even get to like hang out with my friends as I used to. So you get that boredom at home, just sitting down, not knowing what to do. Even if you want to study, you'll be like, I don't know when the exam will start. So if I study, it's kind of like a waste of time. Yeah, so basically that's it. And also, I feel very sad when I go out and see like small children on the street selling face masks. It's so like I feel so sad. Like you will be passing with a car and you will see these children. What if they get hit by a car, or what if they get affected by the virus? It's very important that people take into consideration the situation of children, especially in the streets. It's very important.
So who do you think should solve that?
I think the government should, or they put it in the hands of Department of Social Welfare to help with the to educate people. Like everything's with educating, telling them that when you put children at risk of this is going to happen, this might cause this for them. So it's very important.
Okay, the educational aspect. How did it affect you and your activities?
Okay, we used to have our monthly meetings at Voice of the Young where we share ideas. Like some people when they're outside, they feel bored, they don't have the courage to speak. So but when we come to Voice, it's like open, everyone can express themselves. So many people like were not part of it, so they were very emotional, like they were very sad because they did not get to meet their friends. And then when it comes to child labor, like the selling of those masks at the street, I think also like the government, the parents should also play a part in it, because if there is a law that no child should sell, then those children will not be selling and they will not be at risk.
But I think when this
virus.
particular thing happened, I can remember when the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education talked about the fact that schools will be closed. There was this particular release that had to do with the fact that children should not be selling outside. You know, children should be indoors and watching lessons.
Exactly.
So sometimes parents have a huge role to play, it seems.
Yeah. that is what, like, they will say this should not happen, but it is not being implemented. It is not enforced. When a strict law is placed that the children should not be selling, then no child will be selling at the street. The parents also use this opportunity, like, to send their children to go and sell for them, which is not done. Because even without this COVID-19, I'll be going to school and you'll be seeing your fellow children selling out there. We never know what they could become in future. So we should invest in them to go to school rather than staying at home and rather than selling at the streets.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. I just hope that this conversation would have just continued on and on, but we have other segments. We have Lamin K. Sadie here already about to join us soon, and we have an insert of an interview with the UNICEF country representative. So I am so amazed with some of the things that you're saying. With some of the things that you're saying, I totally feel like the future is bright. That is what I think, you know, because with the demands you're making and how strong you're making them, I know that the future is really bright. So all I'm just saying is for you guys to keep it up, keep speaking. Like you said, the most important right for you is expression, which is very important. Children have the right to speak. Thank God for the Children's Parliament, which I think it's a very good step. It's a very good initiative. And you talked about education. Education is key. Without education, obviously, we can't move. And without education, both of you would not have been here. So we have to thank your parents as well for allowing you to come here, for allowing you to express yourself. So guys, give me your final words in relation to the Day of the Child. What message do you have for your fellow children out there who are watching? I know they're inspired already.
Yes. So I want to inform children to appreciate themselves as children. Let them not be silent. Let them speak up when their rights are being affected. And I also encourage all parents to also respect the children's rights. There are a lot of rights that are international for these children. So I just hope that everyone will respect this day and also make their children feel proud of themselves. That's basically it.
Thank you. Yes, Mansa.
So what I want to say to the children out there is that this day is very important for us. We should celebrate it at home, at school, anywhere that we are. We should celebrate it. We should remember that the government, the world recognize us as children, and they are giving us this day to express ourselves. So we should break the culture of silence. We should not be quiet about things that are affecting us. We should use every opportunity to express whatever is disturbing us inside. So on that case, we'll have a brighter future. We'll work together and have the Gambia we want.
Okay, brilliant, kids. Oh my God, I wish I was this smart when I was your age. I don't think I was this smart when I was your age. Thank you so much, guys, for coming. Sukai John and Mansata Bajo. I am sure that this is not going to be the last time that you guys come here. Okay. So we'll follow your progress. Once you come here, we'll just follow your progress and see how well you guys are doing. And congratulations on your good results as well for grade 12. You talked about how it was so depressing for you, but thank God here you are. Both of you passed with flying colors, Nusrat and Methodist Academy. I can't wait to see you guys rocking university. So viewers, like I mentioned, we have Lamin K. Sadie here in the building. He's about to come here, and Hamga Lamin K. Sadie, Mom, we just don't get along on the show, but we are so close anyway. He's a good friend of mine. But then, Sunyowe, Mom, I'm a whole different person because he has questions to answer. So let's take a short break. When we come back, we'll get to have Lamin K. Sadie.
The Gambia, as you know, is located in the West African part of the continent. West Africa historically has been one of those regions of the world where human development indicators are among the most challenging in the world, and that does not exempt the Gambia. The Gambia is a country where, despite high levels of poverty, high levels of social exclusion, and overall human development indices, which are still very challenging, is a country that's really been able to achieve some very, very positive gains for children. If you look at all of the official indicators, including those that UNICEF has supported, such as through our multiple indicator cluster survey, what we see is that in some areas, be it in survival, development, and to some extent in protection, there have been very positive gains. Infant and under 5 mortality have been coming down progressively over the past couple of years, but we still have a very big challenge when it comes to neonatal mortality, children who die during their first 30 days of life. That's where it's concentrated, and that's where it's hardest to achieve inroads. In the area of development, if you use the indicator of access to education, the country has happily not only reached gender parity, but it's also surpassed gender parity, which now puts us in the challenge of trying to understand why more girls are going to school than boys. There's a very interesting gender dimension there that we need to understand. And even though many more girls and boys are attending school than, let's say, compared to 10, 15, or 20 years ago, we have a tremendous challenge in the area of learning outcomes. So once they get to school, that's very important, but what is it that they're learning? Are they acquiring sufficient numeracy skills? Are their literacy skills well developed in order to be able to go to the next stage of educational development? So in a nutshell, what I can say is that the achievements are there and they are statistically proven by evidence. But behind the statistics, if you dig deep, if you go into gender differentials, geographic differentials, urban versus rural, you start seeing that the story is not the same for every child in the Gambia. And that's what we're trying to change, is that we have social protection systems, that the education systems and health systems are developed and implemented in such a way that we're thinking of universal coverage at the same time that we're not leaving any child behind.
You talked about the fact that neonatal deaths is a huge concern. So what is UNICEF doing in relation to this?
Well, we're actually doing quite a bit, let me say, and I was very pleased in some of my first visits to different areas in the country. I've been to the Mansaconco area, where I had the opportunity of visiting schools as well as some of the healthcare centers that were supported. One of the first meetings that I had with the Minister of Health, he indicated with tremendous appreciation the support, which was to the tune of almost $500,000 US for the acquisition of critical equipment for child survival and development. We're talking about baby scales, we're talking about oxygen concentrators, we're talking about different critical equipment that every single hospital and every single maternity ward, irrespective of the level of human development of that country, you just have to have. These are the types of equipments that allow medical doctors and their teams to be able to not only identify very early whether we're talking about a high-risk pregnancy in order to be prepared. So we're providing the financial resources for the acquisition of equipment, but not only that, we're helping to develop protocols for training and capacity building. But one of the things that I think is critical is that when you talk about what I would say is a hard software, you also have to be thinking about the human software. What do I mean by that? Of course, a hospital and a maternity ward needs the equipment, needs the supplies, but you also have to work with people at the family and the community level. Empower women especially to be able to generate more positive health-seeking behaviors. In other words, proactivity, and go and seek out the health service. And we also have to involve men, fathers, brothers, husbands, uncles, to ensure that women in their households have the support of everybody, and that seeking good health behavior should not necessarily be a problem.
Welcome back, viewers, from that short break. Like I mentioned before we went for the break, I have with me Lamin KCD. I think this is a very familiar face because since Youth Dialogue started, most of the time, whenever we have issues to do with children, he's always here. Even if we contact him the day itself, he will come. So he's part of us, and thank you so much for believing in this particular program and always rendering your services to us. Thank you so much, KCD, for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me once again to express expert view on the subject matter.
Yeah, so, you know, it's the same thing again, International Day of the Child, but this time it's here when we are battling a global pandemic. So to me, that is the most important thing that we should draw attention to and what to do next time when it comes to the plight of children. But before we started, we had a conversation in relation to something you want to start with. Tay mom dafa ñëw ak benen level bu es tay. So we are going to go with that first, and then we get to have a conversation around this particular topic.
Okay, I thought it's important to state that through the Universal Children's Day was established by the United Nations in 1954. It wasn't until November 20th, 1959, that the United Nations General Assembly adopted an extended form of the Declaration of the Rights of the Child. Okay, now what happened was that this was originally acquired in 1924 by the League of Nations. And then the United Nations adopted this document as its own statement on children since then. Now it has, its original text has about 5 points.
Okay.
What does it read is that the child must be given the means requisite for its normal development, both, you know, maternally and spiritually. And that the child that is hungry must be fed. The child that is sick must be, you know, nursed. The child that is, you know, that is backward must be helped. The delinquent child must be, you know, reclaimed, and the orphan and the wife must be sheltered and, you know, scored. So what this essentially tells us is that if you look at the original text of the Declaration on the Rights of the Child and the current form that it takes in our, you know, international convention and domestic laws, you can see the difference in terms of the language, in terms of the text, and in terms of the meaning. However, the meaning remains the same. The desire of those who, come up with this declarations really have the same intention. And it says the child must be put in position to earn a livelihood and must be protected against every form of exploitation. Now, we talk about child labor all the time. Now, this at the time said, for example, if you look at our current laws, at the age of 16 years, the child can be engaged into light work. Okay, but in that process, he or she must be protected from all forms of abuse and exploitation.
Yeah, but the ones that we see, like,
Exactly.
this is not guaranteed.
Absolutely not.
It's not guaranteed because, like Mansata and Sukai said, the child labor, the one that we see, most of the time they're not even with an adult.
Absolutely,
it's just
I agree.
them. So basically, we are not going by this.
So it is exploitative.
Yes.
So what is telling you the intention of the people who comes up with these issues? They have an intention. They have a desire.
Yeah.
Now to realize those desires, it becomes the collective responsibility of individual nations and nations collectively.
Yeah.
And if you look at one point that has been stressed by the previous speakers, Mansata and Sukai, was the point 5. The child must be brought up in the consciousness that its talent must be devoted to the service of its fellow men. Now, this is one point that they talked about in terms of the responsibility column. Now, as we always say, every child, every right goes with corresponding responsibilities. Now, what that corresponding responsibility means that children, of course, it is also. It doesn't also mean that when a child fails to fulfill responsibilities, his or her rights should be denied, because rights are alienable. They cannot be taken away from it. Of course, unless it is by a competent court of law.
Yeah.
So, but again, also we know the African Charter places not only rights on children, but also places responsibilities on children. So, the original drafters, those who thought about these issues, have a vision, they have a desire, and they have set up, a mission. How we get there now becomes the responsibilities of nations, individually, like I said, and collectively. And of course, in doing so that, it trickles down up to the family level, and a child also plays a role in this.
Yes, so you talked about the role of the child and that every right comes with equal responsibility. So tay suñ amé yaay bu nekk sa kër ñu xaw ko make ma xaw a practical. Yaay bi has done everything necessary for the child education, be expression, be and everything. But the child is not going by the responsibilities. So advice al façon parent bobu naka la mo mëna consoler xalé bi lan yan sarta la mëna use pour straighten xalé bi.
Wow, xam nga when we said xale bi nanguta fulfill responsibility bi jana dañ war a set on the background. Foog ñu set the background to that. Oftenly in our society time buñ dee start pour yar xale yi daf dee tardé. So soo xaaree xale bi comme nuñ dee waxee rek banta bu tooyee lañ ko jubante.
Wow.
So most of the time we leave our children so very idle. We don't guide them. Tey xale guidance la soxla da nga koo teete nga won ko li war ak li warut from the beginning, and you can do this from this infancy. You can guide that child to be, but sometimes we neglect our responsibilities so much that xale yi dañoo grow up on their own. dañoo jàng from the streets. dañoo jàng from environments yoo xam ne are not really convenient or conducive for their growth. Now lu dee happen mooy suñ demee ba ci kanam xale yooyu noonu ñu dem out of control. Parent bi mënaatut teg xale boobu noonu yoon, and then it becomes violent. Fekk it's too late. So lu si dee mujjee rek mooy daf dee violent torop, relationship bi daf dee violent, fitna la all the time. Anytime that you want the child to do this foog nga jël yar, foog nga defee nii, and loolu moo dee is a violation of rights of children along the line. So pour man daal affaire si the beginning mooy xaleel da nga koo teete. It's like somebody who is very innocent of everything. So léegi yow yaa war a xale bi lu buntu dugal si moom yow yaa ko dugal ci moom. Kon li war mooy nga teete xale bi wan ko li baax ak li baaxut. Ba pare ñu bàyyi di wax xale yi ne bàyyi lii baaxut, and you're not telling them why baaxut. At the end of the day nga ne xale bi ne waaw bàyyi lii baaxut. The next minute mu génn mu dem si beneen kër fekk xale yi ñu ngi koo def. Understand xam nga loolu confuse nga xale bi léegi. So dafa contemplate man suma yaay dafa maa xañ lii rek waaye ñii ñu ngi ni di ko def. So the chances are that pour xale bi venture into that is very high. And oftenly just we beat children and said bàyyi lii. We don't give them any explanation. ñaareel bi comme suma boss nu mu ko daan waxee njundu mooy ne léegi la ñu confuse xale yi. tey mu def lii mu laajte lii from you nga ne ko ne xale bu ndaw bi la looy doyee lii. ëllëg mu def something nga ne ko ne mag bu toll ni yow, and then we confuse children from those stages. So soo seetee suñ programme buñ dee positive discipline in everyday parenting. mi ne pour ñu mën a yar xale yi dañu war a understand the growth development stages of the child. ma ne xale bi naka la dee màggee up to the last stage. mooy ne xale bi bu juddoo dafa nampa, dafa raam, dafa taxaw, and all that dafa start di daw di explore. So stages yooyu noonu yëpp soo ko understanding di nga war a mun a xam naka nga yari sa xale. waaye comme nu ma ko dee waxee all the time mooy fa lañ dee start di punish xale yi mooy bu ñoo nampa. ok bu xale bi di nampa mu maata weeni yaayam, that was the beginning. They start di duur xale bi di ko yar. But what does that mean xale bi lu tax xale bi di di maata ween bi. Child psychologist told us that ne xale bi suy namba ku nekk bëgga nga attention, doomi aadama bu nekk bëgga na attention. Man mi waxaa yow bëgga nga am suma attention, and I also want to have your attention. Comme most of the time suñ dugalee ween bi si jéemiñe xale bi rek yaay moom ñu ngi concentrate si leneen. Affaire yi ususu bi la, affaire yi teg bi, affaire yi ndab maalo bi baax na ndalifin. So you fail to give the child the concentration mu ngi nampa. And then lu ñu dee wax mooy ne xale bi the first point of learning mooy si kanami waajuram yi. moo tax ba suma waajur bu jigéen foofu la emotional connection bu dee ñëw. moo tax most of the time xale yi dañ dee miin seen waajur yi. moo tax tey xale buy jooy fii yow mun nga koo ñëw nga ekkati ko mu continuer di jooy. waaye yaayam su ko téye even liir laa wax waaye yaayam su ko téyee rek xale bi dina notice na suma yaay moo ma téye. so xale boobu noonu muy nampa joxuloo ko attention in that process. so mu struggle soo saanee sa kanam ni mu toppa la. soo defee ni kanam bi mu toppa la. loolu lu mu laa wan mooy ne xale bi soxla na sa attention waaye it's not there. yàlla lu mu ko may pexe bu mu ko may mooy ne most of the time si la moo xëcca weeni yaay bi. su xëccee weeni yaay bi automatically di yaay bi dafaa joxe attention. gis nga dafaa joxe attention lu mu munti nekk rek dafaa bàyyi loolu noonu mu jox xale bi attention. moo tax soo joxee xale bi attention nga xool ko rek xale bi day smile.
That's true.
waaw su xale bi smile nag ñu ne xam na lu moo def, xam na lu bon lu mu def, pam ñu start di ko dóor. So but essentially what the child was laughing at was that the missing attention boobu noonu, attention bu mu ñaaka noonu yaayam xool na ko jox na ko loolu noonu so si biir loolu noonu loolu moo kontaan loo xale bi mooy smile so foog ñu understand the growth of the child it's a whole process boo xam ne foog ñu understand ko to be able to
so the punishment moom it will
the beginning of discipline pour yar sa doom mooy pour nga understand xale bi lu moo dem through because xale bi su tojee kaa si biir néeg bi nga dóor ko te ñun yëpp xam nañ ne xale bi su demee ba stade di raam lim jot rek daf si waaw so su demee ba taxaw anything loo xam ne mu ngi ci kaw that's what the child goes for loolu la moo toppa ji so lu nekk si suuf faaleetul loolu lu nekk si kaw la mooy so yow waajur bi lu war si yow mooy soo understand this process so xale bi di raam anything loo xam ne mooy nekk si suuf nga génne loolu within that environment nga jox ko space bi su starté di taxaw dootul delluwaat si suuf so what you do is anything loo xam ne su taxawee dina si jot nga génne loolu noonu nga xam ne dina am the space pour move for so xale life am yëpp exploration
it's a whole understanding and you're saying this and I'm smiling because I'm like who knows this ñan ñoo dee follow li nga nekk di explain ni
unfortunately
so which means it's a whole process and it's so hard
it's a whole component in fact the program was tested in universities in Canada and in Africa and it works and now that Gambia ñu ngi ko CPA ñu ngi ko run in various schools and communities in the Gambia and it's a very helpful program it's indeed it's very very helpful foog ñu understand loolu then we will have it difficult
we will go from that so dafa mel ni kon man sometimes I had a conversation with an elder of mine mu ne ma corporal punishment man suma time school daf ma dimbale de mu ne ma timetable corporal punishment dimbale na ma so it was a debate between the two of man ko hey emotionally corporal punishment do you work de mu ne ma kañ so and do you know it's still happening in schools because when I speak to some of my siblings ñu ne ma xay tey dañ ma dóor
wow it's still happening and that's why we are working with the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education to ensure that corporal punishment curtail nañ ko but again also corporal punishment doesn't only happen in school settings the UN Global Study on Violence Against Children and report bi ñëwoon out in 2002 boobu daf ñu aida ñun yëpp àdduna bi yëpp la aida in terms of the forms of corporal punishment booba jamono suñ na corporal punishment xel yi si school rek la dee waaye corporal punishment buñ defee the UN Global Study bi on Violence Against Children dafa gën a yaatal the settings of corporal punishment wax na school educational settings and this educational setting also include the formal and informal educational setting homes are one the places where corporal punishment is meted on children even in prisons and detention centers also confirmed to be one of the settings of corporal punishment ak tamit alternative care institutions soo joxee exemple yooyu noonu mooy nekk fi nga xam ne xale yi dañ fa nekk ñu leen a toppatoo maanaam su may joxee example of alternative care institutions will be like SOS shelter for children in Bakote and other orphanages like Sunju orphanages and so those are alternative care so UN Global Study on Violence Against Children proof na ne comme fitna yu dee dal xale yi in terms of dóorin yi ak yooyu noonu
it's beyond
the school level it happens in almost all those settings so really corporal punishment is happening ñun ñu ngi liggéey ak Ministry of Education the point mooy dëgg la ñu bëri dañ laa wax ne man dañ ma dóoroon moo tax ma doon li ma doon tey waaye a lot of people ñi nga xam ne tam a lot of people gis naa ñu bëri ñi nga xam ne te study has proven that a lot of other people bàyyi nañ seen njàng mi because of corporal punishment because they were subjected to humiliating punishment just to say wàllum njàng mi métti woon na trop ñaareel bi doonoon na situation boo xam ne violence dafa rise on maanaam fitna ñu dee teg xale yi dafa gënoon a yokku because benn xam nañ ne waajur yi bëri amuñ patient pour dëkk ak seen xale yi understand so school bi lañ dee use as an opportunity xale yi suñ demee pour ñoom ñu relax ñu free seen mind and this time around COVID bi lu ñu present mooy xale yi toog nañ ak waajur yi nekk nañ together so it has increased violence in fact Girls Not Brides is issue woon nañ a statement in the early phase of COVID ne xale yu jigéen yu bëri ñi nga xam ne ñu ngi woon kër seen waajur yi joxoon nañ leen sëy because lu xew mooy time bi nii comme for exemple su xale yi ñu ngi dem school seen teachers yi ñu ngi monitor ñu ngi find out ñu ngi establish what fan la xale bi nekk so suñ joxee xale bi for marriage it's easily noticed understand why this period bi almost 6 months the child has gone out for marriage nobody will notice it understand waaw so those things were done privately understand tamit gender based violence comme noo ko waxee gender based violence tamit was an occurrence jigéen yu bëri complain on nañ because the National Gender Steering Committee bi nga xam ne man dama di talk under Women's Bureau bi doonoon na topic yoo xam ne discuss on nañ ko and a lot of facilities report on nañ gender based violence li xew mooy force comme xale yi suñ dëkkee seen waajur yi naka lañ dee easily get pissed off. The same thing with husband and wives in our society.
The gender-based violence.
Gender-based violence. Because this time around, jigéen yu bari tay boobu noonu lu leen daan protect mooy comme amuñ that much interaction ak seen jëkkër yi. Góor bi su demee liggéey balaa moo dellu si is 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So the little time you spend together, yaa ngi yaakamti boor set. But this time around, both the man and the woman are staying together from morning to the following morning. So that also becomes give rise to gender-based violence.
And the husband and wife violence is not even good for the children.
Wow, in fact that's the direction. Boobu is one. What effect does it have on the child psychologically? Dafa isil xale bi métti du very in terms of so léegoolee xale bi du bugg a nekk within that environment. Because xale bi su xalaatee put them kër rek what comes to mind mooy suma pa ak suma yaay dinañ jote. So COVID-19 dafa expose xale yi to a lot of risk health wise. ñëpp xam nañ ne suñu lopitaan yi déggoon nañ fi report yu bëri. At one point the hospitals were considered to be a danger zone. That was perspective of even society. Ken bugut a dem lopitaan. Ken bugut a dem lopitaan because for people's perspective, for people's perspective, mooy soo demee si lopitaan rek dañ laa test COVID, dañ laa test positive, and the misconceptions, the misinformation around COVID-19 mooy ne waaw governments are making this for money. So soo demee rek dañ laa test for COVID. Tax na ne xale yu bëri feebar nañ si kër yi dañ leen remain at home. Seen waajur yi bañ la naa yóbbu lopitaan. Man sax bokkoon naa si benn incident boo xam ne mu am xale bu feebar ñu bañ ko yóbbu si lopitaan bi xale bi malnourished and all that not. So we had to even use force with the police to ensure that child was taken to hospital.
Sad.
So COVID moom dafa expose
dafa mel ni suñ time bi moom lu si des bareetut. So ma bëgg rek nga tàggatoo, what message do you have for children out there on this day? Because International Day of the Child is in 2 days, but we're doing this in a pandemic. So just talk to us quickly about how you intend to celebrate it and the message you have for children, government and stakeholders in general.
This year, this day is being commemorated together with government. In fact, government is the lead partner in this. So ñun as Child Protection Alliance, Child Fund, and all the other institutions are coming together to complement the efforts of government and also reminds government of their commitments to children and how far we've gone. We will be looking at how far have we gone in fulfilling rights of children, what are the challenges that we are confronted with, and how we can address those those issues. So am nañ outline of activities. Dinañ am a march pass on the 28th, morning of 28th, and dinañ quiz competition. We'll also be having poetry and so forth.
It's
so
the whole thing
we have a line of activities for that period, and then we'll be having a lot of media engagement as well. And the beginning, I think the first engagement is this platform. With children. I know in other platforms we have, but the media engagement will continue up to the day and even after the day, because we have array of activities. So just to call on the government that they have signed up to a commitment, and these commitments are are embedded in the Universal UN Convention on Rights of the Child, African Charter on the Rights and Welfare of Children, and our domestic laws like Children's Act, Trafficking in Persons Act, and we've legislated all these issues, but they are still happening. So government needs to come up with stringent measures, but again also budgets needs to be put in place. If you want to know the commitment of government in fighting violation of rights of its people, particularly that of children as well, you need to look at the budget. But the budget determines your level of commitment to fighting that particular issue. So to children folk, we want to say, let us continue to act responsibly. Let us continue to prove to our parents that we can do it differently. And to parents, look, in order to cut the poverty line, we have to educate our children. We have to support them.
It's an investment.
It's an investment. But again, also, like we all know, every investment goes with risk. So it's not 100% guaranteed that when you invest on your child, you will become whatever you want. But 99% chances are there that they will become who you desire them to be. Let's guide them. Let's nurture them.
The right environment. Obviously, the person will get there.
So yeah, I think that's my message too. But let's keep it real. And to the media, we want to say, well, in order to and to you, Dialogue, we want to say thank you for this platform and thank you for the work that you're doing. Thanks for the engagement, and really, let's keep it balanced. That remember, children also fall within the youth category. Range, youth is any person, below the age of 35. But again, also children, you know, form, you know, have a share in
yeah,
that.
sure.
So
Great
you.
recommendation, well noted. We will involve children more and more, obviously. Thank you so much, Casey. The time Hulowin. Time it has been a smooth one. Thank you so much, Casey, for coming. We really appreciate it. Viewers, we will take a short break. When we come back, we will get to wrap it up. Stay tuned. Viewers, that is all we have for you in this edition of the Youth Dialogue. That was a brilliant conversation with Lamin Kaysedi, as well as some of the voice of the young members. We also had a conversation with the UNICEF resident representative in the country. Brilliant conversation right there. Don't forget to connect with us on our different social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. My personal social media handles are as well in front of you. Take it, contact me, and then give me your recommendations and your comments. I will surely pen them down, if not even implement them. This outfit is provided by Rugis Creations. She's right there along the Manjai Highway, doing extremely well. Her numbers are right in front of the screen. Take it, contact her. She'll provide you an outfit as nice as this or even better. Till I come your way next week with other young people doing extremely well across the country, do stay tuned.